big giant truck here. Deconverted man here, actually. All right. Hi. Deconverted man here. The video's live stream is called Why S.J. Thompson is Almost Right About the Tempelton Prayer Study, because I can't quit. I tried. I've been seeing a counselor about how to like leave her and just let her go, but it's okay. Anyways, so she's kind of right, but not for the reasons she thinks. The problem with prayer is it's unfalsifiable, because you can always say that the result is God's will. That God knows it's being tested, so is withholding its healing powers on the group that's being tested. You can say that all sorts of things about why or why not anyone is getting better or not getting better. It's all in God's will, so it's completely unfalsifiable. You can't prove it wrong, because you could always say, well, the Christians involved weren't really sincere. They weren't sincerely praying. Whether you have two or more gathered in my name are supposed to be able to do anything, but they have to have faith enough that they could move a mountain. So maybe they didn't have enough faith, maybe this, maybe that, and you could never get rid of all those variables. But you also cannot get rid of the variable that somewhere in the world, somebody might be praying for the entire world, every human. I know, because I used to be a Christian, and I would sometimes pray that God would help the entire world. So that does mean that there is no possibility of any control group ever, because you can't find a group of humans that are not being prayed for. You just can't. Somebody somewhere is praying for them, not by name, but indirectly by saying, hey, God, help these people. So you can't have a control group, and you can't falsify it because everything could be God's will. So there's no test to be done. But every time tests have been done anyways, even though those things are true, the result is what we'd expect from chance. Some people get better, some people don't get better. Some people take longer, some people don't. That's it. That's pretty much what we would think chances. What's interesting about, or what I should say, what should be of note to people that think that prayer can do anything, is that prayer never seems to be able to do anything that the human body or nature can't do on its own. Where is the massive prayer group to get somebody's arm regrown? Just doesn't happen. Why God can't heal amputees is still a question that theists seem to say it's okay. You can live without limbs, so God doesn't need to heal you from that. Or maybe it's just that God can't do anything that nature can't do, because there isn't a God. It's just nature. But there is, of course, then the other problem that some gods, specifically the Yahweh God, doesn't want you to test it anyways. You're not supposed to test the Lord your God. So I don't know why these Christians are participating in these tests anyways. They should be like, no, we're not going to test God. We're not going to pray for these people to get better as part of your test. We might do it on our own, but we're not going to participate in your evil science test. You believe in the word of man. We believe in the word of God, blah, 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 blah. So, I guess these Christians are like, no, it will work. It will do something. So the test is always going to be chance. You're not going to see a significant outturn. And even if you did, that's one test. You would need to be able to duplicate it. And you would need the same people to have the same affliction in the same way. And it's just not. Humans aren't testable in the way that other things are. Animals aren't testable in the way like something that's concrete, like chemical reaction or something. You're going to get similar patterns to emerge, but you're never going to have these same exact conditions So you're never going to have a perfect test. And that's okay. Ideally, that's what we'd want, but we do the best we can. But every test that's been tried for prayer has ultimately shown what we'd expect from chance. Except for the few times when it was that there's at least something to the idea of your particular God. But you have to answer a question. And the question you must answer is, does God change? Make sure that that's on my screen here. Let's see. Woo-wee. Oh, my word. Oh, yeah, okay. So, does God change? If no, then I'm going to propose a test for you. If yes, then how can you trust God? Because if it can change, then, well, who knows what it could do, because it can change, right? But if God cannot change, if Yahweh, the God of the Bible, Abraham, Isaac, and whoever, that God, Jacob, whatever, I don't know. If that God, the Father of Jesus Christ, cannot change, or does not change, however you want to put it, then in 1 Kings 18, there's this whole story of a test performed by Elijah and people that believed in Baal. And the people that believed in Baal set up an altar. Elijah set up an altar. The altars are identical. They do their prayer. They offer their sacrifice. And they try to get their God to light the altar on fire to consume the animal sacrifice. Because, of course, God wants living sacrifices. Because nothing happens. They pray for days and days. Nothing happens. Elijah puts on basically a stunt. They pour water on their altar. They make it damp. And he prays once, and God puts it on fire. This has been shown in Dark Matter's done a video on it. I think Non-Stamp Collector's done a video on it. There's cartoons about it. There's all sorts of things you can watch this dramatized. And here's the thing. If God doesn't change, then God would allow testing in this particular way. Now, of course, there's always a way out for the apologist, which is to say, well, but that was for Elijah. And I'm not Elijah. There isn't an Elijah anymore. So yeah, we could do it, but there's no Elijah. So we can't do it until we have an Elijah again. Or they might say, well, yes, but God doesn't want or need sacrifices anymore because of Jesus. So because of that, God won't do this because it doesn't want the sacrifice anymore. Or they could say, yeah, well, yeah, sure, God allowed it for that time, but God's given us so much other evidence that it won't give us more evidence again. So basically, they're saying that God can change, kind of, but it's not really changing. It's not really that God's changing. It's just that now, because look, it's not that he changed. It's just the situation is different. Now that Jesus is dead, and then came back and then left for heaven, I guess. Does that mean he's dead again, or like he goes alive into heaven? How does that work? Like, I thought God existed outside of space-time, so how does Jesus keep a body with him? Well, at any rate, I guess he leaves behind his body again, and he just goes into heaven, which I guess that means we would be able to find Jesus's body, right? But they never found the body. That must mean that the disciples ate the body. No, wait, sorry. So, if God doesn't change, hypothetically, we could do this test. Now, SJ, when I brought this up in our conversation ages ago, said, well, maybe, well, yeah, maybe, but I would love if an apologist would really put their faith on the line and man or woman up to the task and say, you know what? I really believe that God's not going to fail this test, that God doesn't change, and that the test that Elijah did back in the day will work today, even if without Elijah, it doesn't matter, that praying one time to Yahweh will get our altar to go on fire. You don't even need the other one, but we'll build the other one. It doesn't matter. We'll make it however close we can. And of course, now we're going to get into people saying, well, it wasn't close enough or whatever, but we'll get it as biblically accurate as possible. I want them to bet their belief that it will work. That by work, we mean that it will light on fire on its own. Just now, we're going to do this. Of course, we're going to want to do this in a controlled way. We're not going to want to do this outside, at least not if it's storming, because lightning could hypothetically hit. And then, you could say that was God doing it, but it could hit both things or whatever. So we're going to have a roof over it, but then that changes the test. So maybe we just do it in clear weather, and we'll have lightning rods, far away, but the lightning will go to those lightning rods instead of the altars or something. And we won't even pour the water on the altar unless you really want to. Like, heck, you can pour lighter fluid on there. Gasoline, it doesn't matter. It's not going to go. It's not going to happen. And so the person wagering that it would have to then concede and say it failed, therefore God failed. Either God doesn't exist or it's not the God of the Bible. And to really stake their belief on the outcome of that test. Who, as an apologist, as a theist out there, would be willing to do that? Who? No one. No one's they're gonna make an excuse. Oh no, we can't do that test because of this, because of that, because of all sorts of reasons. They will make up reasons that you cannot do this test until the end of days. Nobody will agree to doing this test and staking their faith on the outcome of this test. No one, not a single person. And that should tell you all you need to know about what a believer believes behind the belief. Because somewhere in their brain, there's this, I don't want to say knowledge, because I can only speak of myself, but there is this thing that's like, God won't do that. Like, I know that won't work. Like, I know that won't work. Well, pray for the person to come, to be healed. And it's like, okay, maybe that will work. But pray for them to regrow an arm, not going to work. Pray for them to come back from the dead, like their head got chopped off. It's like, people aren't going to pray for that. They know it's not going to work. They know it won't. So they won't even bother to pray for it. Now, how do they know that it's not going to work? Well, somewhere in their brain, they kind of know that there's a limit. But they can't admit that, because that means that God's limited, which it is limited to what nature can do, because God is equal to nature. And my reason for that is that God isn't any other thing than just nature. There isn't a God. It's just the way things are. If you want to call that God, I guess you could, but I don't know why you would. The apologist can always come up with some more excuses. Now, this also kind of blends into a different apologist channel that I watch, where they were going over atheists asking different questions and answering those questions. Oh, look, he's pre-assuming all this stuff, and like, I didn't notice any loaded questions that the atheist had asked, nor did I note anything of presuppositionalism. It looked like the atheist was genuinely asking questions to gain knowledge about the the person rather than the apologist who will ask questions knowing they have the answer, which SJ admitted to. SJ completely admitted to saying that yes, all her questions were not to find out anything about atheists. She knew the answer already. She knew the atheists couldn't provide the answer, that none of the answers would be compelling or convincing at all. So the questions were irrelevant. But I think for the atheist, we ask questions usually to actually learn about the other side. But they were going through this, and the guy kept bringing up this book by Hugh Ross, who actually had a degree in astronomy, but he's an apologist now. So I bet that his career in science failed, and that's why he turned to apologetics. But nonetheless, at least he had a degree at some point. And the one guy kept saying that the answer to why the universe is so big, which was one of the questions, is it has to be this big in order for humans to be the elements that we have. The universe has to be this big for those elements to exist. Well, that doesn't sound like an all-powerful God. It sounds like a God, if even at this point we can even say God, but it sounds like a God that has to do things in a certain way. That's not all-powerful. That's limited. God could have made physics in a different way that doesn't require a large universe. It could be any size, and it wouldn't and shouldn't matter. It could be anything. We could all be underwater and be able to breathe, even though we don't need to breathe, and we wouldn't have gills, and everybody's upside down, and also gravity doesn't exist, but it doesn't matter because God can do anything. It can make the universe any way it wanted to. But here in this apologetic book, basically the apologist is saying, well, the universe is really big because it has to be that big for life. Life is so rare because it has to be really rare. Because then that points to God. Because if there was life everywhere, then that wouldn't point to God. Like, why, what, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. There it is. JMD Apologetics, answering cosmic skeptic questions was the thing I was trying to find. So I'll link that as well as the SJ thing. But the prayer study, going back to that, and SJ kind of almost like it's just so close to being right for a change. I was rooting for her to be right, because I already responded. I already told her, look, you're not going to get a control group, so already you shouldn't try to do a study of this anyways. And then that on top of that for Christians, it says not to test God. So there's two reasons to not do it, but yet people do it anyway. So I'm not sure. She should be like angry at the Christians for doing it and going against God's will of testing God anyways, right? I don't know. But prayer fails to produce any result that is significantly different than nature itself could account for. People recover from surgery. In fact, if we really thought prayer worked, they wouldn't need surgery. You just pray for them and they'd be healed. This is why, people that believe that crystals can heal, okay, then you don't need a doctor. You just need a big room made out of that crystal, right? Well, but they're going to want the doctor, because otherwise they're going to die if they needed surgery. Is it a new study? No, it's it's a fairly big study that was done. What was it? What is it? The Tempelton Prayer study is what SJ is talking about. It was a fairly large study as such things go, but like I said, it's unfalsifiable because you can always move the goalpost. Maybe somebody prayed for the prayer to fail, right? Yeah, well, that's basically God's will. We don't know what's in God's will. because it's unknown and unknowable. So if God wants that person to not recover right now, then they're not going to recover no matter how much you pray for it. Even though the Bible says if two or more are gathered in your name, I will give you what you want, basically, which is, I think, when they wrote that, somebody had to have realized, guys, we can't tell them that, because then they're going to ask for things that God won't be able to do, because there isn't really a God. Don't tell them, though. Somebody somewhere had to have known that that would have been a problem. And so, like, I think if I remember right, like, immediately after, it's like, well, but, blah, 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 there's already apologetics starting up of excuses of why, but you have to have faith great enough that you could move a mountain. So if you really believe hard enough, you can move that mountain with prayer. Okay. Like, literally a mountain? Like, I could say to the mountain, move by the power, the power of Christ compels you, but you need two people, because that's a thing. So you have two people that really, really now, we could measure belief. We could actually do that with the right equipment. We could measure the brain waves, and we could figure out which parts of the brain activate when somebody believes in God, or is praying to God and being sincere. And we could devise something that would show on some scale how much belief somebody has. And I wonder how far you could push that. Now, cults, as especially ones where the people wind up dead, have 100% success rate. All those people absolutely prove that they believe, because they're dead. They wouldn't have killed themselves if they didn't believe, right? Unless they were killed and they didn't know that they were drinking poisoned water or Kool-Aid or whatever, right? So they all, in the Heaven's Gate, for example, they all really believe that dying in this particular moment, in this particular way, they would go to the heaven that was behind the comet, because that was the gate to the heaven. And for all we know, they were right, and the rest of us are wrong, and we all missed our chance. At least until the comet comes back, if it ever does. But would the believer actually believe enough in prayer to say, well, if I have enough faith, I can move the mountain? Forget about the mountain. If you have enough faith, you should be able to do anything in God's name, because that's what it says. It says if you do it in Jesus' name, in Jesus Christ's name. Is it like the full name of Jesus? Is it Yahweh's name? And you can get like really fiddly there with like, how are you supposed to phrase this? Because you have to phrase it just the right way. Maybe you have to say it in Hebrew. You could get the entire world together and pray for something that cannot be done by nature itself, and that thing will not happen. It won't. Doesn't matter how many people you got together. If everyone started praying, this cute little thing on my hand here, everyone, well, he's going to fall off. That's no good for my example, is it? There we go. The entire world, including skeptics, whatever, everybody praying to the God, Satan, Allah, whatever, you will not see this thing levitate off of my hand. Come on, God, go ahead. Levitate it off my hand. Angels, Satan, demons, ghosts, come on. Something. Go on, levitate it off my hand. Nothing. So, why not? Because God can't be tested? Oh, then why do the prayer test? Maybe intercessory prayer just doesn't work. Maybe God doesn't care. But then that means it can't be the God of the Bible, because the God of the Bible said to care. kind of a problem. If you think that God doesn't change and you're a believer in Yahweh, then take the Baal test. Set the dang thing up and stake your belief on it and have the guts to do it. SJ will never do it, and I know that for a fact because he made a claim on Twitter that was a different sort of claim, but still a testable claim that could have been tested. I offered $1,000, which, you know, I mean, I would offer more, but I mean, I can only reasonably offer $1,000 because that's, you know, that's how much I could offer. Like, I can't offer more than that unless I set it aside and save it from month to month. And I'm really bad at saving money. So, anyways, it could have been more money. But at any rate, and an instant conversion to Christianity if she could prove that this was a thing. She made the claim that she like can sense when there's somebody bad in the room. And I'm like, hey, we can test that. You know, you just have the person, me, I could show up. I'll be in the room with you. You sense me, and then I'll like move away from you until you can't sense me anymore, and we'll mark the distance of that off, and then we'll just blindfold you, and either I'll be in the area where you should be able to sense me, or I won't be there. And I'll do that like, you know, 10 different times or 20 times, and if you get all 20, then you get the $1,000. You know what her response was? Well, just because we don't test things doesn't mean they're not true. Yeah, well, it also means you're full of shit and you kind of know it because you're not willing to show it. But that's what apologists bank on. They make claims that they never have to prove because the believers already believe in the nonsense. Oh yeah, sure, you can detect evil people. It's also a really convenient way for her to say, I'll never debate an atheist in person because I'd be like detecting their evilness the whole time. You know, weird. If God was testable, everyone would have access to that test. And then the confusion about what God is would lessen greatly. Why there's so many different God concepts out there? Now, true, we've boiled it down to a few in our modern day and age, but there was a lot more the farther back you go in time, and maybe as we go forward, there will be less and less. Why is there a concept of God? Evolution. It's part of our heritage. We are pattern-seeking creatures. And so we see patterns even when they're not there. We assume agency even when it's not agency. And we do all of that without even thinking about it. And of course, then there's group compliance, what I call either groupthink or hive mind. You can see the candid camera. Other places have done this in a more controlled way. You have a group of people enter. They all look at the back of the elevator. The guy or the gal will turn around and look at the back of the elevator because everyone else is doing it. Take off the hats, put on the hats. They'll do it. They'll go along with the group. Then there's other studies that have been done where the actors in the test, or they'll be taking a test together, and first they get the questions right. They're all really easy questions. Then the actors, the three actors before the real person, will get the answer wrong. And they'll get the answer. Then they'll resist, and they'll, well, yeah, I mean, I think it's D. What? And then they'll go along with the group. So if everyone in a church is singing praises to God, and you're there, you're gonna feel like you have to sing praises to God. Why do they stand up and sit down in church? Why, well, it's part of this. It's part of the ritual because you're doing a group activity. Now, I was at a Weird Al concert a while back, and back in my day, people would hold up lighters in concerts sometimes. and people would wave the. Well, in this particular concert, I noticed a light, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then another one, and another one. All of a sudden, I noticed everybody was holding up their cell phones and turning on the light, and that was the new way to do it. And everybody was like, there wasn't a person that wasn't doing it. There maybe a few, but if they had a cell phone and they weren't recording, they were doing that. And this one person had a mini lightsaber instead. But why are we all doing this? Why are we all doing this together? Because that's what the group is doing. So there's a tremendous psychological thing going on that religion manipulates to continue the meme of God. That's all God is a giant idea. If the Bible somehow vanished from the planet tomorrow and people simply forgot about Christianity, of course, I guess that would also mean Judaism or Judaism would stay, but let's just say magically somehow aliens wipe our brains. I guess Islam would disappear too. I don't know. But at any rate, it wouldn't return. Something else would in its place, probably. But if you did that with science, some scientific understanding, and wiped that out, it would take years, but it would come back because it's actually demonstratable and true. It's actually based in reality. What God would not just tell the world what it is, what it wants, what it's about? What sort of mad, insane creator would not communicate to its own creation, who supposedly it cares about, what the bleep it is? Why would it pick one little piece of the world to reveal itself to? Why not reveal itself to the entire world simultaneously? That would be recorded in every single region of the world at that time. And in fact, why ever go away? Why not just stick around? Jesus would be a lot more compelling as God if he was here to interview. But of course it goes away. Because God isn't any other thing than an idea that we've created. And you have to protect that idea from discovery by hiding it on the mountain, then in the sky, and then beyond space and time. Because it's a square circle, and you don't want anyone to notice. And if you're a believer, you buy into it. And you point at the prayer test and say, oh, that failed because, you don't know who's praying for the people. Yeah, that's true. You don't. You can't get a control group, but you also can't control for the uncontrollable, which is God, because, well, there isn't anything to control. Hypothetically, the test should always be in favor of God, that every prayer every Christian made, because it said that in the Bible. It says, 2 or more gathered in my name, you will get it. Well, but that's not what it really means. But that's what it says, but that's not what it means. And why did God have that there? Why did it have that written? Reasons. Oh, okay. Other religions don't do that, though. Many religions say, God is kind of like amoral and doesn't care about us. Those, that makes a little bit more sense, but you believe in something you have no actual proof of. I've been on doing this stuff that I do for a long time, and I've not seen any evidence at all. In fact, whenever you mention the word evidence, you get an argument. And I don't know how many times I've told people arguments are not evidence. And they'll go, well, but they have things that can be evidence in them. I'm like, that's nice. Just give me those things then. And I'll show you why those things aren't like what you think they are. Every argument that I've heard or read for any God has one or more logical fallacies. And as far as empirical evidence, that is a way to see God, it's not there. Nobody can see it in that way. It's not, this is a thing. It's a thing I bought because it was cute. It's from this game Overwatch, which I don't play. It's a mini Parshman plush hanger, apparently. There's a lot I can know about it, it tells me about it. I can look it up online and find out even more about it, which I did, and it's like apparently in the video game, it's also just a stuffed character. I don't know. I just thought it was cute. I didn't care where it was from or what it was for. I just wanted it because it was cute. So, why isn't God like that where I can just go, here, there's God, done. There wouldn't be a need for debate. Now, I'd love to be able to say, nobody was going to debate that the sun exists. Like, there's something we can all agree on, right? No, because there's idiots out there that think that the sun is a hologram or some stupid thing. Or just like a big giant ball of light in the sky. The flat earthers believe all sorts of nonsense about the sun and the moon. So there's always someone out there that's going to be Looney Tunes enough to deny anything that you point at. Now, that might be something in the theist's favor. Maybe. What if everyone, except for you, all had the same idea of what God is? They all did. Everyone did. Everybody was the same religion. Everything was exactly specific about this thing. Nobody had any disagreements. One dogma, one doctrine, and only you doubted. Well, what then? It's still an appeal to the majority. It doesn't matter that the whole world could believe something. What is their epistemology? How did they arrive at that conclusion? That's what matters. What's telling, as I was trying to set up a debate with this apologist, he didn't even know what epistemology was. So we're going to have a boring debate about, did Jesus rise from the dead or whatever. I was like, all right, great. Whenever you use your sources, because I know you're going to have to cite sources, tell me who the people are, when they said whatever they said, where they said it, and what they believe. Now, he doesn't understand why I want to know what they believe. Well, here's the thing. Why would you care if you were arguing against a Muslim? If everybody they cite is also a Muslim, that's not going to impress you. So if you just are citing Christians, of course they're going to agree with you. So it's not going to impress me a bit. That's why it matters. Is that an appeal to, I don't know, not authority, it's like a poison pen sort of fallacy. It's like, well, because they're Christian, that means we should doubt them. No. But I mean, if that's all you've got is people that already believe in your side, who agree with your side, I mean, where's the evidence? See, it's unlike science. Theology is the opposite of science. In science, lots of people from different religions and different beliefs and different political ideas and ideologies and different parts of the world can look at the same phenomenon and do tests on it and come to a single agreement of what that is and how to describe it. But in theology, you get exactly the opposite. That's why there's thousands of doctrines and dogmas and different types of churches out there. And people will say, oh no, there's a way to interpret the Bible that's the right way. Yeah, sure. Have you convinced any of the other Christians yet? Why would God allow such an insane system to exist? You've got Pentecostals, some of them, who think you have to speak the tongues or you don't have the Holy Spirit. You've got some First Church of Christ people that think if you don't get baptized in a certain way and understand that you had to be baptized in a certain way, it doesn't count and you're not saved, to the point where the pastor that I talked to about this, he believed his own dad, who was dead, was in hell because his dad had been a Baptist preacher and hadn't gotten baptized in the right way. So he was in hell. He really believed that. Ouch. How unfair is that? And that really is maybe what the killing blow should be for Yahweh, is even one person in hell is unfair. Because an infinite punishment for a finite crime is evil. But they don't see that. They can't see that. Because they are told and they believe that God is good. But like in a good movie, you'll see a character do good things. You don't have to be told once that that character is good. A bad movie, you won't see the character do a single good thing, and you'll have somebody else saying, "Wow, you're such a good person. Wow, you're so funny and smart and intelligent." And just once, you'd love to see them do something, but you don't, because it's a bad movie. They tell, not show. God is pure tell, no show. So, why did the prayer study fail? Because you can't agree with a null proposition if you're a theist. You can't agree to let your belief go once the study results in what we would expect from nature. You can't conclude, therefore, there's no God. It just means that one test failed. And time to do another one and another one until one of them gets the result you want. And then you bank everything on that one test, and that's all you need. You ignore the misses. Forget about those. The only one that mattered is the one that keeps your faith alive. Why? If God existed, why would it be afraid of challenges? Why would it be afraid of testing? It wouldn't. It'd be like, yeah, sure, test me all you want. I don't care. Doubting Thomas got to test Jesus. But what's Jesus say to doubting Thomas, the straw man skeptic in the Bible? Yeah, you believe, so you're blessed. But those who don't believe, and here he's talking straight to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, those who don't believe, you guys will be even more blessed. Wait. I have a question. Does that mean that like there's levels of blessing? Like Thomas got like this kind of blessing, but everybody else will get like this kind of blessing. But is there like a higher level blessing? Like, so SJ was kind of right. Prayer tests fail because either there isn't a God to answer them, or God doesn't care enough to answer them, or doesn't have the power enough to answer them, or won't answer them because it's mysterious, or, making it unfalsifiable. Do the Baal test. Get a result. That would be convincing. I don't think any theist will ever put their faith on the line to do that sort of test, because I think ultimately, unlike cults where people, again, you can only kill yourself once, which you shouldn't do. But, in the cult, they really believe that killing themselves is going to get them to the, to the heaven's gate or whatever the thing is. But for the religion to survive, it can't kill off its members. It has to give them a promise that they can't see, that they can't test, that they can't measure, that they can never be sure about. That's how it keeps itself alive. That's how God exists. Right here in our brains. Is that frightening? Maybe. So what does that mean? It means what? There's no afterlife? Well, who knows? With or without a God, we don't. It might be there's some sort of afterlife for all we know, but there's no reason to believe it without some logical argument, without some evidence, without some test, without something. And just believing in it because it makes you feel good, not a really good reason. The mysteries of the universe are amazing as they are. I'm made up of little tiny things that are flying around called molecules. So are you. So is everything. That's pretty cool. Do we need to add that there's angels looking out for us on top of that? And these angels somehow are invisible and untestable, yet they're able to hear what we say, even though they don't have ears, but they do have ears, because how else could they hear? But then how can God hear anything if it doesn't have a physical body? But then Jesus did, but now he's back in heaven. And if God's outside of space and time, how can he have a physical anything in that point? But it's God, so it can do whatever. The whole thing doesn't make sense when you think about it. But sadly, theists are encouraged to not ask questions. Ultimately, maybe it might be that your brain is hooked on the idea of God, and that you try to not believe in it, but like your brain just like doesn't let you do it. And that might be the case. I don't know. I'm no psychologist. But it's like, well, if you can get into a belief by just try it, just try it, just pray, just stop praying for a while, see what happens. Like, do things still work out? Don't go to church. What's the difference? See what happens. Like live as if God doesn't exist for a couple months and see how that goes. I don't know what that, if that would, but the weird thing is, I don't want people to become a skeptic by pretending. It won't count. I guess they might, but for me, it's like that's not the truth. The only path, the journey that they have to take is their own. They have to take that journey wherever it leads them, and who knows if their brain will even allow them to let go of the God thing or not. I don't know. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know, or maybe they'll get to the point where they're like, well, I'm stuck with this thing, and God's just belief, and that's all it is, and okay. But then I can't tell you or anyone else what God wants or doesn't want, because I can't prove anything about God. Maybe God is you, right here. All right, we've got a lot of chat going on for this. I guess, see, this is another reason why I can't quit SJ, because people love when I complain about SJ, I guess. So it's really all your fault that I can't quit. I don't think there's any questions directed at me that I can see per se. But I did see Yin Yang in there, and I said, some people saying, can I get a, let's see, Ayesha Miles? Probably mispronounced your name. Can I get a second person to pray for a bottle of vodka in the name of Jesus? Well, you could just have Jesus turn water into vodka. So yeah, why not? Actually, why does Jesus even need the water to turn into wine? Why doesn't he just go, wine, here you go? Does he talk in tongues? Yeah, Holy Spirit, yeah. Theology isn't the opposite of science. Well, I mean, that could be an interesting debate. I think that it very much is in a metaphorical sense. Don't try to take me literally on that. But I'd still could make a decent argument, probably, maybe, I don't know. Let's see. But my guy Flamey is here. I love Flamey. He's a good guy. There are many questions, that we don't have the answers to yet. Humanity, that is, doesn't know X, Y, and Z. And we shouldn't fill in that answer with, therefore it's a dragon. goblins, ogres, or dragons did it. Do you have an example of goblins, ogres, or dragons? No, but I can't think of anything else. So you think it's a G, O, or D, right? I don't think so. I mean, well, what else is it? I don't know. But we don't have examples of goblins, ogres, dragons. So we don't have an example of G-O-D. Maybe you shouldn't use it. See how G-O-D spells God. There's many mysteries, and to uncover and unravel those mysteries, only science can do that. Logic can help, but ultimately it's going to be hard work of people that are smarter than me, smarter than, I don't know, who knows. Maybe it might be you, but you're gonna have to study those things. And to try to answer that mystery with another mystery doesn't really solve anything at all. Say, well, it must be a ghost. What's a ghost like? I don't know. How did the ghost do it? Where does the ghost power come? Well, no more questions about the ghost. Okay. How does a mind work without a brain or a neural network to support it? How does something exist outside of time? What does that even mean? There's no when for it to be. Outside of space, there's no where for it to be. Okay. Well, maybe it doesn't exist outside of time and space. Maybe it exists in its own little universe. Okay. How does it exist? How did it come to be? It's always been. How do you know that? Well, just that's it. Well, I don't, but I mean, just has. Why? How does it work? Where does its power come from? How does it function? What is it like? What is it made out of? Because if I go along with the apologists, I get a brainless God that thinks, that doesn't have anywhere or when to be. That sure sounds like a non-existent God. And like I said, maybe God is just in our brain. And maybe that's okay. Because then we forge our own destiny. But SJ will always be wrong. Unless she actually begins to learn logic and use it. I mean, that might be a miracle right there. Maybe we could pray for that. Think about it. I mean, God's heard all the theists. It's really the skeptics that God should listen to. He never hears from us. Maybe that's what it would take. All the atheists to pray, and then God will listen. But forget about God. The devil, demons won't either. They won't do what I want. They won't help me out. They won't make the damn thing float. Ghosts, goblins, anything? How about the power of mind itself? Could that make it levitate? No, darn, why? I could make it fall, but that's easy. Anyone can make it fall. Here's another trick you might see. Now let's see if I can get it right. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, so notice my fingers aren't moving. Now it's gonna go. It's gonna go. Ooh. Now let's do it in circles. Here we go. Oh, whoa, whoa. Let's do it the other way. Hold on. Let's do it the other way. Oh my God. Okay, so there's little nerve endings in your fingers. And you can do it with a necklace or any string at all. And you could have somebody else holding your fingers. It doesn't matter because the little tiny nerve endings, if you're thinking enough at it and those nerves work, they'll twitch enough to rotate the string this way or that way or back and forth or whatever. But the one damn thing you can't get it to do is go up. Go up. Come on. Go up. Up. Stay up. It just won't do it. So you're limited. You're limited by the laws of the universe. So only a God could break those laws. But it doesn't seem to want to. And that's kind of odd. At least not in a way that we can demonstrate to anybody else. So that leaves us with weird conclusions like either God doesn't exist or and or it doesn't have enough power to do whatever, and or it doesn't care about us, or it doesn't have any power and it doesn't care about us. Hi, Dolphin Tattoo Girl and Thin Box Dictator. Damn it, I'm late for this. Well, that's okay. I can keep talking about stuff. I ran out of topic on the SJ thing, but that never stopped me before from whatever whatever I'm doing. What I gotta think. Oh, okay. Abraham Gert has been responding to me. Let's see. Oh, okay. So regarding the word perfect, based on the word perfect, I can't claim that God cannot demand things. So the word, I don't think that they know what the word perfect means. So here's how I understand the word perfect. It means you're perfect. It means you don't need anything else. You don't want anything else because you're perfect. What do you think perfect means? Question mark, exclamation point. Let's just find out what they think it means, because the point I'm trying to make, that a perfect being, that a being worthy of worship wouldn't want worship or need it or ask for it. Oh, well, it's for us. I don't want to worship, so it's not for me. So God wants me to do something I don't want to do? Why? Because it's God. So I had this kind of weird, not dream, kind of like a daydream, I suppose. Aliens come and kidnap the entire human race. And for whatever reason, they select me to like be the spokesman for the human race. And they're like, okay, pick, here's all the people that have ever done bad to you. Which one should die? I'm like, I don't pick any. I know you have to pick one to die and we'll let the rest go. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. It's illogical. You guys you're doing ad ballium. So if you're going to do one thing illogical, I don't know what else you might do that's also illogical. I don't have any reason to believe or trust in you because you're threatening me with force, or you're threatening them with force. So I'm not going to say anything. Well, okay, we'll kill them all. Okay. If that's your choice, I have no power over you, but I'm not going to do something illogical. And so is hell, if it's a thing, the ultimate in ad ballium. Only an illogical agent would threaten us with that kind of stick. But it also, what if the aliens said, we'll give you all you earthlings the cure for all the diseases, and all you have to do is break one of your morals. Tell a lie. You don't like lying. I won't do it. But that makes, because you want me to break my own ethics? Because you're going to give me this reward. That's an appeal to a bribe. So if I break my own ethics, that then makes the human race fail the test that was the real test, for all I know, which is that we should adhere to our ethics and not ever let them go because some big giant authority is bribing us out of them. Because then I'm for sale. And what else can I be bought? I'm not for sale. Now the aliens leave us alone, go back to wherever, and it's like everyone's like, hey, you could have gotten the cure. I don't know that they even have the cure for all this stuff. It doesn't matter. I didn't break my ethics. So you don't have to like me. I don't care. But of course, it's a dream. It's a idea. Who knows if I would actually do that, if it ever presented itself. Come on, aliens, bring it on! Yeah. No, I didn't hide it. I approved it. Let's see. Approved. No. Don't hide. Approve. I don't know why it's hiding this message. Thinbox Dictator said, God who needs worship is a sign of a God made up by people or stupid God. Either way, not worthy of worship. Right. There's a Bo Bourbon song from God's perspective. If you haven't heard it, I've promoted it before, but it's absolutely, I think, worth a listen to. I'll link it in the thing. But one of the lyrics is, maybe God doesn't believe in us. That's an interesting idea. But also in there is that from God's perspective, this is God singing this song. My love's the type of love you have to earn. But when you earn it, you won't need it. And he repeats that again. I thought, that's really profound idea that it's not about you going, oh, God, you're awesome. It's about trying to earn God's love. And then once you have done that, you realize you don't need that. You don't need its love because you're so freaking awesome now. You don't need its love. You don't need anything. If you've done enough cool stuff that God's like, good job, you don't need that approval anymore. And maybe you don't need God. Interesting. Hey, Purple. Let's see. YouTube isn't telling me when I started. What do I mean by aliens? Oh, come on, people, the creatures from outer space, be demonstrated. Yeah, demonstration of the phenomenon in question is always an absolute requirement for me. Empirical evidence refutable to a story valid and sound argument. That's my epistemology. I don't know what your guys and gals and robots epistemology is, but feel free to throw that in the comments once this is once I hit end on this, then it becomes a thing on YouTube that you can comment on. Because right now comments are just going in the chat and you can't comment on the thing yet. It's really weird. So yeah, hopefully you've thought of things because of what I've said. Hopefully I've challenged something. I don't know. I always try to think of things that might challenge the atheists and skeptics that I know probably maybe watch me. And I don't know that I can come up with that. We all agree on one thing in a sense. So we agree that we don't believe in a God. What else? Why? But what about the things that we might believe in? And why do we believe in those things? And how do we pick those apart without picking each other apart? I don't know. But there you go. That's what we do, is that. So I think I'm out now. That's it. I've got nothing else. So I'm going to drink this. White grape peach. Probably, let's see, 130% vitamin C. I don't think that's possible. Isn't 100% how can you add more daily value per serving? So you're giving me more vitamin C than I'm supposed to get? How does that work? Ingredients. White grape. Why am I broadcasting this? Anyway. All right. So. All right. It gives me more than my body. Then why would it give me more than my body requires per day? That's weird. I don't know. Whatever. It tastes good. That's all that matters. Thanks for all of you for listening, joining in, commenting, thumbs upping, and all that other YouTube-y stuff. Hopefully I'll be doing a thing with Lane Goth Mom on her channel. So if you don't know who that is, what's wrong with you? I mean, she's been on my channel, so you know who she is. And then at some point, I might be doing a debate about resurrection of Jesus. A whole bunch of people agree on these 6 basic facts. Can't explain it. No, yeah, I can. It's just all been made up. The whole story. The whole thing. It's made up. None of it happened. Well, but all these people agree that these. I don't care. Didn't happen. That's my answer. None of it happened. It's all written. It's all made up. It's pure fiction. None of it happened. Not even a little bit. Oh, but you don't deny that Jesus exists? I don't know. If he existed, he's nothing like the person that you'd find in the Bible, because people can't do the things that Jesus is said to do in the Bible. So Jesus would be so different that he wouldn't even recognize himself if you showed him the Bible. Also, you'd have to teach him how to read it. I guess you could do his language, whatever that might be. Actually, you'd have to teach him to read, I think. Why didn't Jesus write down anything? That's really weird. Someone else later on writing it down. Why didn't you? I mean, like the book of Jesus, like signed by Jesus. That would have been. They found, they think, a piece of the manger, because of course they did. And they're parading it around this little tiny piece of wood. They've got this, like, I don't know, thing around it, and it's Catholics, of course, and they're like parading it around, like, look, we got the little tiny piece of wood that's from the crib of Jesus. And I'm like, no, it's just wood, people. You're just, why? No, stop. Maybe I don't know. Every now and then they have to pretend like they found something. Like, oh, we found the ark again. I'm what a lobster looks like after molting. Thanks. Lobsters exist. We can all maybe agree on that. Listen until something we don't have, blah, etc. Be skeptical, people. That's all I know. All right, let's turn it off now before I say something stupid. Wait. Oh no, I probably already have. All right. Yeah, my Discord thingy that I now have, that's in my about section as well. I've added that. I sometimes go there and I just exist there for a while and no one shows up. So I haven't actually. I talked to Mingun on it once, so that was a thing. So I'll put that in the chat, and that will be it. So you can join me there if you want, or not. I don't know. So yeah, let's see how do I do this. Let's see. Where's the button? Is this the button? That's the button. Okay, there's that button. Copy that, put that in chat. Wrong window. Okay, then there. Oops, there. Okay, there's the thing. I'll put the other things in the thing later. Bye. Logic. Something, I don't know. Press the button. Has the button been pressed? Okay, time to make a sandwich. The button hasn't been pressed yet.